And welcome back. Today, no fancy intro, no big explanations. Today, all I'm going to do is I'm going to show how I do this mouse pattern. It's a fairly simple technique. You don't need crazy airbrush experience for this. But it gives a very, very detailed look to it. So let me just jump right into it. Okay, so all I'm going to be using these four things here. These are different tools. You don't need them. I'm just showing. I'll show you how you can use any one of these to get that look. The colors I've used for this. Now I've already, just to save time, I've already pre-mixed some paints here for my coat. So I have opaque white. This is transparent leaf green, pearlized lime green, transparent red, opaque yellow, transparent gray, transparent dark brown, opaque black, and fluorescent pink. So you don't by any means need these colors, but this is what I used. I mixed these, the transparent leaf green and the pearlized lime green together with a little bit of white, a little bit of the red, which gave me this brown. And then I mixed basically the same colors with some more white. I added a little bit of yellow to this one, which gave me a more of a soft brown. That's what I'm going to spread over the back. The pink I'm going to mix with white for the ears. I haven't done that yet. I just did this to save a little bit of time in the video. If you have brown, just use brown. I don't, so I just mix my colors. So again, to save time, here's another bait. It's another wake bait I have. I've already got it. It's disassembled. It's the same as this. This is one of the wake baits I make. It's all disassembled. Now what I did with it, if you watch my first video, I did a dry layer on this, so I sprayed the whole thing white. And then I laid black from the top down because that's going to be my undercoat for this. So we have the black on the top. We got the white on the belly for the look. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from the bottom and we're going to work our way up, because I want the bottom fur to go up, but I want the top fur to drape down over top of the white, so it gives it that wet look, that natural wet look. So what we're going to do first is I'm going to take this transparent gray and I'm going to lay it on very thin. I want it just to change the color, and I'm going to do one segment at a time because I want this to be a wet application that I'm going to be removing. So I'm going to move this one out of the way here. Normally I do all my baits at the all three parts at the same time, but because of this technique here, I'm going to do it one section at a time because I want it to be still wet when I do this part. So just enough to change the color. I should note that I have sealed that first coat. The white black I have sealed. I use polyurethane. You can use whatever you want. If you use KBS, you could use that. You just have to wait the appropriate amount of time for it to set up. Okay. So now all we're doing, so this is just a piece of steel wire. This one is stainless steel. It's what I use to make these eyelets. This is just an X-Acto blade, sharp pointed X-Acto knife. This came with my airbrush cleaner. It's just a pointed tip. This is what I prefer to use, just because I don't use it for anything else. This is just a cocktail stir stick. I bought 500 of these in a pack. This is what I use for all my stirring. This works as well. So you can use anything as long as it has a good point to it. That's the main thing that matters. And then you're just going to start while it's still wet and start individually. Now I know this is tedious. What you're doing is you're moving that white gray paint, out of the way. to reveal that white undercoat. Don't worry if it starts to dry, that doesn't matter. That's if it starts balling up on you, like the paint itself, that's okay. So just, sorry, I didn't realize that was fading out. So as I scratch it up, and my camera struggles to gain focus. I'm going to slide this so that I can't. There we go. So you can see it's starting to come together very slowly. This isn't the fastest technique. There's spray techniques with templates that you can use. A lot of great examples out there. Jekyll Bates has a really good one. She uses a brush. Somebody brought that to my attention. This is just, I don't know. This is more tedious than that, for sure. But it gives you the feeling of each individual hair. If you're looking for a little more realism, this is the way to get it, in my opinion. So we're just going to do this, and I'm going to jump ahead. I'm going to do all 3 segments like this, and then I'm going to jump ahead to see. Make sure you're getting by the hanger eyes. You don't want a big bare spot there. Doesn't have to be perfect either. You want it to seem like the hair is all leaning obviously in the same direction. You want it to have that wet belly look too, so when just picture your hair, it's not going to be all the identical. If you're to just get splashed, it's kind of going to be all over the place. Yeah, so I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to do the next 2 sections as well. I'm going to do it the exact same way, nothing's going to change. And I'm going to jump ahead to putting on the brown coat. So I'm going to get the next 2 pieces done, and I'll be back. Okay, so we're back. So that's all done. It's all scratched out, and then the same there and there. So if you're doing a jointed bait like this, you do want to put them together just to make sure that they look fairly similar on either side. Okay, so now I'm gonna kind of contradict what I just said, because now I'm gonna spray the brown, my base brown, which is the light brown. I'm gonna spray that over all 3 segments of the bait. The reason I'm gonna do that is because I'm gonna hit the darker one at the same time, and I don't want to keep jumping back and forth between my colors. I only have the one brush or gun, so I'm going to start with this head. I'm going to cover the whole head. I'm actually going to cover all the segments. I'm going to slowly fade it on this middle section, and I'm going to put probably just along the sides on the back section, because I'm going to go with the dark on the back with a little bit on the head. So the head's going to have the most. Now the hairs that are coming up here, I am going to cover some of that, but I am going to try to stay high that, because when I start doing that scrape, I'm going to be bringing some of this light brown down over the white. So just a light overspray. You can see I've covered some of those tips. So this is where overspray's a friend. Let just that overspray cover up any of those tips that we have there. I'm going to just spray this brown here, because I'm not going to do any scratching on the inside. Okay, so now I got that tan color on that. The front of this one. So I'm going to mainly stick to the sides on this one. I'm going to go a little bit on the top. But this is where we're going to start to fade out I'm going to lay a little bit on the top, more so just for a base, so my dark one can blend nicely. And then again, just a little bit on the sides for the overspray, so that when I bring this dark brown in, everything blends together really nicely. I'm not going to fully rinse my gun out, I'm just cleaning the chamber out a bit. Getting some of the excess out. Okay, so this is going to be a darker brown. This is on the red scale. Again, you can do black and brown, whatever color you want, it doesn't matter. This is just what I'm using. So I'm going to hit this back with brown. This tail section is going to be very dark brown. And then, because I got to blend it in, I'm going to kind of fade it off on this top section. And then I'm going to make it thin. And then I'm going to paint the nose brown. Something like that. Just so that they're all tied in properly. Okay, now the exact same thing. I'm going to do this side with a knife so you can see the difference with a knife. Now, it's not a panic if it does dry, it's fine. But just make sure when you're doing this, you're barely touching. I should have mentioned that earlier. It's a very, very light. And try to working on, so these hairs start to get longer back here, but in the face, you just got these very tiny hairs around the eyes. And this is again just going for a little more realism. So now you can see that that black base that we put on there, that's starting to break through. Now these hairs I like to come down, and then I try to flick it up just a little bit, almost like the waters push those hairs up, so they blend in with the bottom one, so you almost have a ridge line. I don't follow too many mice in the water, so can't tell you what their hair actually does. But to me, I like there to be that ridge line right in the middle, where the white and black meet from our base coat. But you don't want to dig too far that you're starting to dig into your actual lure material. So this one's wood. I don't want to start ripping through all my clear coat and all that to start exposing the wood. So I'm literally just very, very gently dragging this pencil, or sorry, this X-Acto knife over top of the paint, which is giving me. So I know you can see there's a little bit of paint buildup. That's fine. That dry paint that's built up, because once this is done, I'm going to heat set it, and then you can just very gently rub your hands across it, and it'll pull all those big chunks off. So again, just little tiny scrapes along the head, around the eyes, nose. As you get further back, you start to make those a little longer. Now some of the white that shows through, that is the clear coat that I put through. Just if you imagine scraping any clear coat, it turns white, which I'm okay with, because if it was all black, I mean, you put a little white in there, it just looks a little more natural, and that's kind of what I'm going for, is a little more natural look. Now if you feel like you've taken too much off, at any point you can just kind of freeze yourself, get your airbrush back out, layer it on fairly thick again, and then you can remove your paint as you want. So it's not like any mistake you made is forever. You can very easily just touch it back up with a little bit of paint. So this headpiece is done. I'm going to heat set it. I'm going to wipe off that dust to show you what it looks like. So I've hit that with the heat, and then I'm just going to take my hand and very gently just brush off all that excess that kind of scraped up. So this is how we're getting a layer. Come on. There we go. So we're starting to get that feel of fur. You can see what I was talking about with the white coming up from the bottom, top scraping down, kind of blending in, so it's like the water's pulling that down. And you got the two different colors there. So on this side you can see I got a little crazy there, so I could touch that up. I'm okay with that though. That doesn't really bother me. Same with the stuff on top. I might just go over very lightly with a spray to take some of the brightness out of that away, but those don't bother me. I like that. Again, it looks like the undercoat, especially once this is clear coated. This is going to blend in really nicely. So this is the top part of the rat, or mouse I should say. So I'm going to do the other two like I did the last one, and I'll show it to you all together. Okay, and here we go. Tail section's done. Body's done. Oh, I can see so much better through the lens. Okay, so got that hair pattern. Now, yeah, I did this body part. Okay, so now the last part. Back to the airbrush. So I'm going to move this out of the way. So here I have white, fluorescent pink. Again, if you have pink, if you have your own color that you want, whatever. You do what you gotta do. This is just pink with a little bit of white. I want this pink to be as faded as possible. So that's basically white. With just a little bit of pink. Load that into my gun. And I just cut out just a shape that I felt looked roughly like an ear that's being pushed back in the water. It's kind of a unique shape. And then I'm going to line this up just above my lip. I want it to be back a bit further. Put it here. And I'm going to do full coverage on this. So I got full coverage. You can see I started it right above the lip, so that's going to be my marking spot for the next side. I'll flip this over here. Do the same thing on this side. Again, full coverage. And then I'm going to take that same stencil and I'm going to take, this time, the transparent brown. And I'm just going to line that up a little bit with the transparent brown. And I'm not going to clean my gun out, I'm just letting it run through. So that brown's going to mix with that pink a little bit. Try to lay that stencil back on the same spot. And just do a light outline of that, so that I'm going to move that up a little bit just to get rid of this white line here. I set the stencil a little bit lower than I should have. I don't mind if it shows through a little bit, it comes through like a highlight. So and then we got a cool little just laid down ear right there. Come over to this side. Do the same thing. And we got another little ear right there. Simple little detail. Let's get that. If this was a fin, I don't mind leaving a little white line as a highlight, but because this is a little mousy, I'm going to get rid of that highlight. So, that's a quick tutorial on how I guess you know what, last step. And arguably the most important part is the eyes. Now, I make all my baits, all my wood baits, I make specifically to fit my dead meat custom eyes. I use 10 and 13 mils, so I use two different size eyes. They are self-adhesive backs, but sometimes if your epoxy gets underneath your two-part, it'll lift the eye off, which is like to be expected, so I like to put just a small drop of super glue on there. We're going to do a red eye for this. This is hard to do looking over the camera, so bear with me. Slide that there. And then you don't want to put too much glue on because it'll bleed around the eye, and then if you get super glue on the eye, when it dries it turns white and it ruins the whole eye. So you want just a little bit. You also don't, when you put the eye in, you want to push it so it sets, but you don't want to push it so it bleeds through, because then you also get super glue all over your fingers and all over your bait. Make sure that's in there. And there we go. My rat bait. It's mouse bait. I appreciate you guys watching. I hope this helps give you another tool in your arsenal to kind of get the design you're looking for when it comes to doing your own type of bait like this. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Like this video, subscribe, and give me suggestions on anything else you might want to learn. I appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next time.